All right, Super Wild Card Weekend is over. The Packers know their opponent. They're getting the Rams, fresh off of a win in Seattle. No fans, but either way, the Packers get the Rams. So our guest this week, Eric Drews at Green Gold Forever, is going to help us break down Packers Rams. And ironically, joining us, even though he hates the Packers, but actually might be able to provide some good insight since he witnessed said Rams pound his said Seahawks. Team bench Reavers. You sure you don't just want to watch the Badger game right now while we talk about the Packers? I mean, I'm going to leave it up to you.
You know what? I'd rather watch the Rams pound the Seahawks into submission again than watch the trash that's on ESPN right now.
Now, this video, because it's a Rams preview, right, is going to be on YouTube. So how does it feel to see Eric's setup behind him? I mean, I like my setup, but definitely there's more green and gold on his wall than mine. So
yeah, well, that's nice because I've got a whole lot of nothing. As a matter of fact, I'm on Press's bed right now, and actually, I lied. I've got the Monday Night Messiah.
You don't know this, but
wrestling Braun Strowman, but it's a 3-man match, and the third man happens to be none other than #FeelTheBurn, Bernie Sanders.
You don't know this. Not only is Eric a Packers historian, but arguably the biggest wrestling nerd I've ever met in my life. Like B Diddy doesn't even come close to the knowledge Eric has about WWE wrestling. So that'll be a whole nother bonus episode. Maybe we can get like a Royal Rumble preview and get Eric and Brian on the pod.
Eric, Brian, and Cash Money.
Oh, yeah. Our wrestling guru, Eric, is Cash Money. So anyways, there he is.
You're building me up quite a bit here. I haven't even said a word yet, and all of a sudden I'm a Packers historian and the #1 wrestling nerd. I got a lot to live up to.
That's it. Those are the biggest populations in Twitter. So there it is right there. So, Eric, the Packers get the Rams. I was on the radio this morning, and Brian and BJ were basically, talking about the Rams and their defense. They asked me what the storyline for the game is. And I said, well, if you're writing the story, it's #1 offense versus #1 defense, right? I mean, the story is that. What did you see Saturday? Was it Saturday, Chad, that the Seahawks lost to the Rams? What did you see Saturday, and what are you thinking about Packers-Rams week on a Tuesday night, right? Long way to go.
Yeah, it's kind of typical of when you're watching the playoffs in the conference where your team resides and you're waiting to see who wins these games. And at first, you see that the Seahawks might be on the ropes a little bit, and so you start cheering for the Rams. I mean, I think every Packer fan was trying the only thing they wanted out of Super Wild Card weekend is for the Packers to somehow avoid the Buccaneers for a week. And so seeing Seattle go down early, it immediately became clear that it was either going to be Rams or Bears. I don't think many people had a lot of faith in the Bears, but as the Rams kept pressuring Wilson and their offense was doing just enough, then all of a sudden it switches to, okay, now you actually have to play these guys. And there's some tough one-on-one matchups, particularly, with that defense. And so I'd say I'm glad the Packers are getting to play the Rams over some of the other possible matchups, particularly Tampa Bay. But it's certainly not going to be easy, particularly on the line. I know Aaron Donald has that injury that Gorilla Monsoon always used to talk about, I think, the torn intercostal cartilage. So we'll see how he plays with that. But
there's one of those wrestling nuggets right there. He put him in the abdominal stretch, and he's pulling those intercostals. That's really good.
Yeah, but I mean, even Aaron Donald at 80%, 75% is still going to be something that can wreck your whole offense if you don't account for it. So it'll be interesting. I think Packers are up for the task, but they're #1 defense, so you got to give them some respect.
So a lot of the conversation this morning was about individual matchups, and it was about Ramsey against Adams. It was about the interior line against Donald, Goff, Rodgers, as someone talked about. I think the individual matchups are important. The one that I pointed to, obviously, is Ramsey versus Adams. At the end of the day, the Packers having an elite wide receiver, everything that he creates offensively, if Jalen Ramsey is able to shut down or to control Devontae Adams, and they can still keep their two high safeties, the Rams defense is in a good spot. Now, the thing about the Rams is, and Chad mentioned this to me, so Chad, I want you to chime in since you saw it Saturday with the Seahawks. The Rams are able to pressure with 4 people up front, keep 7 guys in coverage, which is every defensive coordinator's dream. I think, Chad, you had a amazing response to someone's not very knowledgeful tweet saying, the Rams really want to rush 4 and get 7 in coverage. Well, that's what everyone wants to do, right? My question is, can the Rams stop the Packers' run game enough without bringing a safety into the box and making and truly putting 8 guys in the box, which the Seahawks were never able to. Seahawks were never able to put the Rams in a position where one of those safeties came down and truly honored the run. Chad, what did you see Saturday, and do you think the Packers can run the ball against the Rams front?
The huge advantage that I think the Packers have over what the Seahawks do offensively is just the creativity that they have, the ability to put guys in motion.
But wait a minute, you got your dream today, I believe, correct? Did I read correctly?
Now
coordinator is now gone in Seattle.
Shoddy has philosophical differences with Carroll, who came out and said for whatever reason they want to run the football more. Now, I am team run the ball 100%. You know that. The problem that I've always had, I think, with Schottenheimer, and what I think a huge advantage that the Packers have is their willingness to use Jones and the run game and their play action passing game. For whatever reason, for years, the Seahawks refused to utilize the play action pass game, and they just do not get Russ on the perimeter in design passes. I don't know if you guys follow Nate Tice, former Badger quarterback. His dad is Mike Tice, and he's kicked around in different coaching jobs for a while. He brought up a point that I've kind of thought for a long time with the Seahawks is they want to force Russ into straight drop back, quick game, and that's not who he is. Rodgers obviously is a Hall of Famer, right? First ballot, no doubt about it. He can do the quick game, but the Packers are really difficult to stop when they utilize the play action game. That's the one advantage, or one of the advantages I think the Packers really have against the Rams, is they will put Rodgers in on the perimeter and roll him out. They'll sprint him out. They'll run waggles. They'll do all those different things to change the rush spot. And Seattle doesn't do that. When you see Aaron Donald 2 times a game or 2 times a season, like, you have to change things up. You have to account for him, and they don't do that. And I think that's one thing that the Packers really do well. And that's why I think Packer fans are probably actually more nervous about the Rams than I am. I know that I get that they're number 1 defense, and they've got a lot of good things going for them. But I think the Packers do a good job of creating mismatches, utilizing motion and those things. And Seattle doesn't do that, and that's why it's so hard for them to move the ball against.
Well, the analogy I saw today on Twitter was, and again, I'd love to compliment you when there's a good tweet. I'd like to compliment the person, but I don't remember who it was. He said the Rams defense is this week's Derrick Henry, right? So all we talked about is convinced ourselves how Derrick Henry's going to run all over the Packers. And I think at some point in time, Packer fans, and this would be my, kind of my spiel to everyone listening, right? Like, they are 13-3. They are the number 1 seed. I said it on the radio because it was a question I was asked, is does anyone in the NFC scare you? And the answer is no. The reality is the Packers scare people. And at some point in time as Packer fans, like, I get it. I totally understand that, I saw it all day today that this is similar to the 2011 situation. This is nothing like 2011, right? Absolutely nothing. And Eric, you can give us probably some more historical context of like how that 2011 season actually played out. But what I remember is a horrible Packers pass defense against a pretty good passing team in New York. And the recipe to beat the Packers was out there in the Chiefs game that year, right? And the Giants were super hot, right? This is a Rams team that has to come to Lambeau. that does have an injured Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, Jared Goff. And the reality of it is they were a streaky team all year. That's what the Rams were. And I'm not saying, and this is what Packer fans do to themselves, I'm not saying in a one-game playoff that the Packers can't lose and we will not be disappointed. And Packer fans will pound on their chest and say, well, if you don't win Super Bowls, it doesn't matter. Matt LaFleur said that this week. If you don't win Super Bowls, it doesn't matter. But that's a load of crap, right? The reality is it's been a pretty fun season to this point in time, and it will suck if they lose. But they're a better football team than the team they're playing Saturday.
And I'll touch on a couple of those things there. So 2011, I don't know if it still holds up because there's been so much offense in the 9 years since 2011. But at that moment, going into the playoffs, in terms of yards surrendered, the 2011 Packers had the worst defense in National Football League history. You know, this defense is a top 10 defense in terms of yardage this year. That was the worst in history. The Giants were a horrible matchup. The offense, everybody knows the 2011 offense carried that team all year. They fumbled, I think, 6 times all year, and they fumbled 3 times against the Giants. It just was a recipe for disaster. And so I think people have to stop. I loved what you said. It's time for other teams to start fearing the Packers. I'll say this about the Rams. They got to get respect for being the number 1 defense in the league. It's also been the year of offense. 18.5 points per game allowed is the number 1 defense in the league. That's the highest total for the number 1 defense in the league since the merger, by a full point. And so it's not like, it's not like they're coming in here. You know, you're not facing what's typically your best defense in the NFL. I will say this to your last point. It definitely would suck if they lost. There'd be disappointment. You know, you don't have to. I mean, obviously this organization is headed in the right direction. I will say this. This is probably from the way the bracket looks, the quality of the team. This is their best opportunity to win the Super Bowl since 1996, knowing that they won it in 2010, but they had to do it the absolute hardest way possible.
And that's the thing, guys. I mean, the reality is for everyone listening to this as Packer fans, what scares us all is the fact that the board seems to be stacked for the Packers to actually do this. Then for all the people that want to argue that the Packers never go all in, like they just signed a dude off of a practice squad that played in a playoff game last week, right? Like these guys are as all in as you can get. I don't care what you want to say about Jordan Love. This is the year. And if they don't win, and then it hangs over you, will Aaron Rodgers get back? And will he get it? I mean, I understand why people are concerned, but the reality of it is the Rams are a good matchup for the Packers. They're also a hard matchup in the fact that they're a good defense that's fast, they tackle well, and they love to play with 2 high safeties. Those are all recipes for great defenses, not just the Rams, right? This isn't a unique, the Rams. That's a recipe for every defense to be successful. So, in my opinion, the Packers get over 30 points, Eric. That's my belief. When they score over 30 points, they win games, minus the debacle where they turn the ball over against the Colts. I think they win. I think they actually win by 10. I mean, I think they end up beating the Rams. I just think that people aren't, the story with the defense this year is like the 13-3 record last year. It's like, well, they weren't a good 13-3 team. Now they're a top 10 defense. Well, they're not really a good top 10 defense. They're a top 10 defense at how defense is played in the NFL nowadays, guys. That's the reality of it. And they're going to be good enough, in my opinion, to beat the Rams. Eric, your thoughts? I know it's Tuesday. Chad, you already said you like the Packers, is what I heard. I mean, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah, I don't say that often, but like I said, I'm the one thing I think that I would actually be worried about, and it's not a surprise coming from me, is the consistency of both coaches and how they want to run the football. The Rams are incredibly dangerous when they stick to the run. But for whatever reason, McVay just loves to get out of the run game, even when he's not forced to, and it kind of derails him. Like Goff is just, even when he's fully healthy and Kupp is healthy, Goff is just not a straight drop back quarterback that you want to throw 40 times and you're going to be successful. In that first half, Cam Akers just dominated the first half with their offensive line. And then for whatever reason, like Seahawks kind of got back in the game for a little bit in the third quarter, and it was like the Rams just abandoned the run again, and they just randomly do that. And I don't understand why all the time. And we've seen Green Bay in years past do the same thing. Not as much maybe LaFleur, but with some of the other teams, like that was a huge knock on McCarthy, I think, from Packer fans, was that he just wasn't consistent with the run game. That would be my one worry. Like if McVay is actually committed fully to the run game and Whitworth is healthy up front, they can be dangerous on offense, dangerous enough to sneak out a win because their defense, can slow teams down.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, guys, is the Packers should enter this game, right, the same way they did against the Titans. Stop the run, force Jared Goff to beat you with a broken thumb, right? And that was Matt LaFleur's comments, in the Bear game when it's 4th and 3 and you're playing a soft coverage, he was pushing for Mike Pettin to play more physical. For me, Jair Alexander and Kevin King should be locked up and should play man coverage and should do the things they should do to force Jared Goff to beat you and not Cam Akers. It is my personal opinion. Eric?
Yeah, no, I agree with what both of you said. It really will come down to if the Rams commit to the run, if they can stay close enough to commit to the run. I mean, their defense should be able to do that. If there's a formula to beat the Packers this year, the Colts kind of revealed it in that when the Packers got up a couple scores, they didn't panic and they kept running, and they were able to run down the Packers. Now, granted, if it were not for kind of a fluky turnover and overtime, the Packers would be undefeated in the last 2.5 months, even with that formula being out there. So I think I don't know. The Rams have some really tough matchups for the Packers, but outside of those tough focus matchups, I feel like the Packers have the advantage almost everywhere else. Outside of special teams, just let the punts hit the ground, please. Don't try to fall on them. Other than that, I think
just fair catch.
Okay.
Give me Antonio Chapman. Just fair catch it, for God's sake.
I was saying that exact thing. Antonio Chapman was my favorite. It's like, listen, dude, just catch the ball. Don't even worry about it. We can do the rest. We got a good offense. So I'm picking the Packers to win, if it wasn't clear.
Yeah. Jack Dunn can come in and fair catch.